signatures for our petition. We've posted about 11,000 signatures. This is a tremendous accomplishment, and it really goes to our volunteers. They worked very hard on this over the last month. Not always the best weather, but they were very committed to the mission, and they moved all about the 165 towns, the 11 counties that comprise the 19th Congressional District. And I want to convey from my wife and I, we just want to just express our gratitude and say a heartfelt thank you to all those who carried our petition. And as well, all those who signed the petition. We live in an age where some think that we can't bring people together. I don't believe that for anything in the world. And in fact, when you look at these signatures, you'll see that they span across the ideological spectrum. We have Republicans, conservatives, also independents. About 2,000 signatures from independents across the 19th Congressional District. We believe that this is going to translate into a decisive win when it comes to November. We have focused on issues that matter for our constituents. The Farm Bill, which we believe is going to be good for upstate New York. It's going to be good for rural America. Going to help facilitate a trend that you're also already seeing across upstate New York, and that is to see more family farms and to see them flourishing and doing well. We focused on flood relief, teaming up with my friend and colleague Peter Welch, Democrat from Vermont. We worked together to get the appropriations to recover from Irene and Lee, and then helped with the Sandy relief as well, which was very important to New York. But you know what? We also got provisions in there to ensure that for mitigation in upstate New York, and you're continuing to see this now with the New York Rising program. And we worked on expansion of broadband and also fighting Lyme disease, taking care of veterans. All of these issues are points that I hear every day when I'm out in the 19th Congressional District. They want us to focus on jobs. They want us to focus on getting back to a balanced budget. They want to make sure that we're addressing important public health issues such as Lyme disease, and that we are doing all we can with regard to infrastructure. So, this is what our focus is, that and also our constituent casework. Every week in our districts, we work in our district offices. We do about 90 to 100 cases. And, this is advocacy for our constituents, whether it be veterans who need assistance with the VA, it may be a senior citizen who needs advocacy with a Medicare claim. It could be a person of any generation that needs advocacy with the federal government, and we're committed to doing just that. So with a legislative approach that focuses on district important issues, and by working cases throughout our district offices, we have earned the support. It's evident today. We have posted nearly double the amount of signatures of my opponent for this November. Clear contrast in this race. Somebody who grew up here in a working class family, and who knows the district and knows the challenges and the issues we have, and fights hard for our district down in Washington, D.C., and an opponent who at the age of 26 moved into our district, has virtually no experience and absolutely no ties to the district, moves into the district in an attempt to buy a congressional seat. The folks up here, they're not going to fall for that, regardless of party, whether they be Republican, Independent, or Democrat. They're not going to go for that, and we look forward to the election in November and continuing the hard work for our country. A record of bringing people together to get things done, just like I did in the United States military, continuing that service in the United States Congress, a leader in no labels. This is about 90 members of Congress, and Republicans and Democrats, mostly in the House, although we have 10 senators in this group as well, that are focused on bringing this country together to grow the economy, to get back to a balanced budget, and to protect freedoms. Questions?
I got some, but go ahead.
You heard it first, you go.
Speaking of your opponent, and he does have a tremendous amount of personal wealth. How do you approach a campaign like that, where there may be, that kind of resources behind the other side?
Well, it can't be dismissed. I mean, it has to be taken very seriously in this day and age. Regrettably, money matters, and the fact that he has unlimited resources is something that we're going to have to address. But I would tell you that at the end of the day, there's some things that money can't buy, and hard work, sincere representation, and through the help of people in our communities, like today. When we put forward these signatures on these petitions, this would never have gotten done if it weren't for the hard work of those who walked the petitions. And we plan to use the same approach when it comes to November. I certainly expect to be outspent. There's no question on that. The viewers will see more commercials from my opponent, and no doubt, like last time, the viewers will remember how negative they were on me, and there'll be more of that. But we think we can withstand that, and we can bring home a decisive victory.
Is it easier to be the challenger? You have a record that you stand behind or maybe have to defend. Is his position easier during this election?
Well, I think every election is different. I'm certainly looking forward to the election in November. I'm proud of the work we've done. These are challenging times. And as I mentioned earlier, some think that as a country we can't come together. I don't believe that for anything in the world. In fact, my experiences are that we have so much more in common in this country than we ever have apart. You want to see divide? Go to places like Iraq or Kosovo or Haiti. There's real challenges there. Here in this country, we have spirited debate, but there's so much more we agree upon. And what we should be focusing on is the areas where we can come together, like we did in December with the budget. We enacted a budget. The first time in 5 years, we enacted a federal budget. And what I want to see us focusing on now is the appropriations bills that come along with that budget. Shortly after we enacted the budget, we had a national defense policy bill that we enacted. And then about 5 weeks after that, we enacted a federal farm bill. That's going to be good for upstate New York, good for rural America. And our group, our No Labels group, we played a role in that. We do so every day by treating each other with dignity and respect, and then we support each other in our bills. We look to find common ground and bring that legislation to the floor. There's much more to be done here, but this is what motivates me. And so the idea that I would have an opportunity to defend that action and that kind of leadership is something I look forward to.
Is the No Labels group part of the reason for your vote on the Ryan budget?
Well, it's very plain and simple. The best budget for our district, as I'm a representative from upstate New York, is the vote that I took in December. That bipartisan budget helped replace, or at least partially replace, the sequester. The sequester was bringing peril to our national security and also harming our domestic priorities. And by enacting that 2-year budget framework, we helped reduce uncertainty in the business environment. We helped ensure continuity in government operations. And what we should be doing now is taking that 2-year framework. We should be focusing, where our effort should be is getting the appropriations bills to the floor, getting the appropriations bills to the floor of the Senate, and then conferencing those appropriations bills and sending them to the President of the United States to sign into law. This is what's called regular order. And now that we have a 302A, or we basically have an agreement on the budgeting levels, we should be focusing in on our appropriations bills.
Do you think it's fair that anymore, essentially to run a campaign for Congress, it takes a tremendous amount of wealth, or that seems to be almost a requirement?
Well, we're in need of significant reform in so many different areas, and among those are the way we send representatives to Washington, D.C. I'll tell you first and foremost, part of the challenge, part of the reason why we're in the situation today is the way that we send representatives to Washington, D.C. We have this illusion that we choose our representatives when in many cases it's actually representatives choosing their voters. And this I'm talking about is the redistricting process. Now in New York, early on there was collaboration between the Assembly and the Senate, but ultimately they were not able to reach agreement. So our redistricting maps defaulted to a judge here in New York. So we have actually the equivalent to independent redistricting at the congressional level in New York State. One of the reasons why we have some of the most competitive races in the nation right here in New York is because we had independent redistricting. Now, if we had that all across the country, we'd be a better country, a stronger country, and our democracy would be healthier. That's part of this. And then the other is the way that we fund campaigns. We need campaign finance reform. Some of the solutions or some of the proposals that we brought forward, I don't think solve the problem. Some think that public financing is going to solve our issues with campaign finance. I don't believe that. I mean, think about this. First of all, you're going to give money to politicians. Well, we've already established that over 95% of the races for Congress aren't even competitive. And we're going to give them taxpayer dollars? I think that's a mistake. And it's only going to lead to corruption. And what are they going to do with that money? They're just going to run the negative ads that our constituents get tired of hearing and watching on TV. Not to mention the huge loophole. You bring forward public financing, and what if you have a billionaire? And a billionaire wants to run for office. There's no provision in public financing for that. It's a huge gaping loophole, and so that the average person, somebody who grew up in a working class family, it's hard to run for Congress. Not impossible, but very difficult. Now, what should we do then? If public campaigns, if public financing isn't the answer, well, I think you have to cap. You've got to cap the amount of expenditures. Now, you need an algorithm to do that because no two districts are the same in terms of media markets. But if you had an algorithm that capped expenditures, and then you had every single donation that was transparent and reported, I think that you would bring forward a process that would be much more fair, much more fair.
With the petitions and signatures in, this is essentially the official kickoff of the campaign. What, if anything, will you do differently this time around?
Well, we just plan to garner the grassroots support that we have and have that energy percolate all throughout the district. So, when individuals get calls from our campaign, there isn't going to be a script. We're going to have folks call people throughout the district and say, do you have a moment? I'm calling from the Gibson campaign and would like to share with you why we're going to vote for Chris Gibson. And what I want my volunteers to do is explain in their own words why it is they're going to support me. And I look forward to this. I think, there are some challenges in life that are worth confronting. This is one of them. As somebody who grew up here, I don't even consider myself that political. And, I see what's happening here that, this is a district that candidly, President Obama won this district by over 6 points. And, some handicappers down in Washington describe this as a Democratic district. Well, and I'm open to learning here if either of you have a point on this, but can anyone think of any other reason other than money why this young man at the age of 26 who had virtually no experience and absolutely no ties to the district, why he would be the candidate? In a district that Obama carries by over 6 points, you would expect that there would be a number of Democratic Party leaders that are being very successful. And you'd be right. And so why is it that this young man is the candidate for the Democratic Party? The only reason he's the candidate is money. That's the only reason he's the candidate. And I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, that's not going to be enough for the voters here, regardless of what party they may be in. Our voters who are watching here tonight, they may be Republican, they may be conservative, they may be independent, they may be Democrat. And I believe we're going to see a very strong showing because of the sincerity of our representation, because of the hard work we put into this, and to my accessibility.
Just one more on a different subject. Yesterday, the Senate struck down the Equal Pay Bill. What are your thoughts on that, and where does it stand in the House?
Well, I think equal pay is still an issue. Now, keep in mind, we have laws on the books. We have the 1963 and 1964 Civil Rights Acts that are very strong and provide the legal basis to bring suit against anyone that's not providing equal pay for equal work. And we've also had the Lillian Ledbetter Act that was passed as well. So we've got strong provisions in law now. We need better enforcement, I can tell you that. Now, beyond that, I look to lead by example. My chief of staff, Stephanie Valley, phenomenal professional. She's the highest paid staff member that I have. Incredibly proud of her work. I have Ann Muller, who's the deputy district director, who does a tremendous job for us, and she earns it very well, a handsome pay as well. So, I'm mindful of this in my role as a member of Congress to lead by example. It's been pointed out that in the White House that there's a pay disparity between men and women. So, this is something that has to be focused on, and I think we're a stronger country when everyone believes that for their work they will be compensated. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.